All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem, Makakadash, Barakatham to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwaf, and I say Shalom. And this is a prophecy update as of October the 11th, 2025, on this Saturday night. And this is a news article as we've been seeing the ongoing tensions been rising between Russia and Ukraine. And this is a news article, October the 12th, 2025, and reads, Russian oil. It says a Russian mall destroyed after a Ukrainian drone attack. It says the UAV strike on Donetsk's Sakma complex sparked a massive fire as it led to the collapse of the building's internal structure. It says a shopping mall in Russia, Donetsk People's Republic, was set ablaze and destroyed following a Ukrainian drone strike on Saturday night. Local authorities have reported an early attack on the Republic left 4 civilians injured. And it says, according to the DPR's Joint Center for the Control Coordinate, JCCC, the settlement shopping center located along the Cyberlink Donetsk Mariupol Highway was hit around at 10:24 p.m. local time, sparking a massive ablaze engulfed in the structure. Officials say that the fire spread rapidly throughout the building, leading to the collapse of the roof. In the tunnel's framework, the hypermarket was described as almost entirely burned down. Emergency crews were dispatched, extinguishing the flames and preventing them from spreading to nearby facilities. It says no casualties reported at the site, the JCC says. It says in an earlier statement that the same day, officials reported that Kyiv forces had struck the city of Gorlivikov and Maklivka. At least 4 civilians were injured, 1 critical, 1 a passenger was hit, and several residential buildings and cars, and a kindergarten was also damaged in the subsequently attack. Investigations are underway to determine the types of machines used to assess the full extent of the damages. It says Russian officials have repeatedly accused Ukrainian forces of targeting civilian infrastructures and building residential across the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic, as well as other Russian territories near the front line. Moscow has described such actions as attacks as one of retaliatory strikes on Ukrainian military installations. Also, these are signs of wars and rumors of wars heating up between Russia and Ukraine, which the tensions are escalating, which is intensifying on a day-to-day basis. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? Russia, Ukraine. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? Pakistan versus Afghanistan. Pakistan versus Afghanistan, Russia versus Ukraine, China versus Taiwan, China versus the Philippines, China versus the United States. Because I believe there was another news article I just seen from Yahoo.com. It was saying that at first The Trump administration announced like 100% tariffs on China, which goes into effect November the 1st. Now they're raising it up to 130%. So these trade wars are heating up once again, just like it did before earlier in the year when they came to an agreement, I would say like a couple months ago. Now these trade wars are heating back up once again between China and the United States. So these are economical wars, economical wars, political wars, geopolitical wars. These nickel wars are all going to heat up as well too. That's what we're seeing among the nations. So these modern day wars, rumors of wars, are definitely heating up. It says Isha here wars or rumors of wars. The pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel Defense Force because you had another recent strike over there in Lebanon targeting the Hamas territories by the Israelis over there in Lebanon. And I believe was one unalive and 7 were injured. And all these other seditions and protests and escalations of tensions are heating up between these nations on a daily basis. This is Matthews 24, verse 6. Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? Tensions between the United States armies versus the Venezuela's armies and the president. Tensions are increasing against the president of Maduro. 1044 called Halal Yabashashah says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not in trouble for all these things must first come to pass, but then it's not yet. Right? Russia versus NATO. That's another wars and rumors of wars. This is the book of Matthews 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, which goes into ethnos, and kingdom against kingdom, just like it says in St. Mark 3 and verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided, said the house cannot stand. If a kingdom be divided, said the kingdom cannot stand. So we're going to be seeing kingdom against kingdom and nation against nation. And there shall be famines. Right, we're seeing famines are increasing, and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Right, just like the day before yesterday, that 7.8 earthquake hit over there, the borders of Chile and Argentina. And then that large 7.6 earthquake hit over there in the Philippines with the aftershocks of it as well too, with 6.7. And this is the book of Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars upon the earth, disgressive nations will perplex the seers warning. Right, as we're seeing. As it says again, Russia. So I can't skip that point. Yep, so as it says, Russia mall destroyed after a launch drone attack. Right, so these are the disgressive nations, and this is a news article from RT.com. It says clashes erupt between Pakistan and Afghanistan. A spate in violence on the border between the two countries adds to rising tensions after a cabal accused Islamabad of air raids. Yep, Luke 21 verse 25, and there shall be signs in the sun and the stars and the moon, and upon the earth disgressive nations will perplex sea verse 1. It's the book of St. Mark, chapter 3, and verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided, except the king cannot stand. Right, so if a kingdom be divided, except the king cannot stand. Verse 25. And if a house be divided, except the house cannot stand. St. Mark 3, verse 26. And if Satan rises against itself be divided, cannot stand, we have an end. It's the book of Luke 21 and verse 10. It says, then say he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, which goes into ethnos. Once again, it says clashes erupt between Pakistan and Afghanistan. These are Elamite nations, because that's their biblical nationality. Afghani, if they're Afghani or Pakistani, their biblical lineage goes back to Alam. It says shots fired at a central of German town. Media reports an assailant shot and injured several people in the Garcison before fleeing the scene. Local media reported cited the police, because I believe they caught him like a couple of hours later, because he was fleeing the scene for the past couple of hours, but they caught up with him 8 p.m. time over there in Germany. And it says the EU state launches a campaign against the bloc's war plan. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has warned that Brussels is rapidly drafting towards a direct confrontation with Russia. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has launched a petition against the EU's war agenda. Right, because you've been having the European Union and NATO rising up against Russia and Belarus. It says by continuing to support Ukraine, the bloc is heading towards a direct confrontation with Russia. The veteran leader has long criticized Brussels' a warmongering stance towards Russia, addressing supporters at a farmers market in Baptist, Tips on Saturday. Erdogan announced that this Fidesz party approved his approval to launch a national petition against uh, uh, the Brussels war policies. Europe has a war plan to include going to war against Russians and giving the Ukrainians everything they asked for. We must, because I believe there was a news article. It was suggesting that if NATO come under attack or close encounter or a violating the airspace, they was giving NATO or EU the green light to shoot down military drones or missile strikes from from Russia to NATO to do that towards them. Now, if it would have, if they would have came to that point, because they made a suggestion on that, it says Hungarian joins a drive and take part in a peace march on October 23rd and later reiterated the call on Facebook. It says we are heading into a hot autumn. Europe is drifting towards war at an ever faster pace. A few weeks ago, the Kurmakan, if I pronounced it right, Brussels unveiling its war plan. Europe plans Ukrainian fight with Russia is exhausting. Orban wrote he referring to an informal European Council summit in Denmark that discussed increasing military aid to Ukraine and creating the EU a drone wall. It says we must show that the Hungarian people do not want war. This is why today we are launching a national signature drive against Brussels' war plan. It remains unclear how Orban intends to use the results of the petition, though they could present at the upcoming European Union summit in late October. It says the EU members has states maintain the Western aid for Ukraine must continue, while pushing for a rapid militarization in the pretext countering the perceived Russian threat. Recent measures, including a 800 billion to 900 billion rearms unit program and a pleas by NATO members to raise defense spending up to 5% of the GDP. Last month, NATO approves a 500 million prioritized Ukrainian requirements list of the PURL initiative, enabling U.S. to supply weapons to Kyiv, while European members cover the cost. Russia has dismissed the claims that it posed a threat as nonsense, used by the Western government to justify soaring military budgets, warning that continuing aid to Ukraine only prolongs the conflict. First Thessalonians. It's the book of First Thessalonians 5 verse 3. It says, "For when they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction come upon them, as a very woman child shall not escape." Right, so as a sign of petition to potential to stop the prolonging campaign of EU is launching, but the European Union and NATO is going to continue to spend up their military defense, and while they're helping NATO Ukraine as well too, while the Russia-Ukraine situation is heating up. So this is a significant sign, more building up of wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. So we're gonna see more signs of that. Still book of Revelations, 11 verse 14. The second world passed, behold, the third world coming quickly. Right, so the second world passed, behold, the third world coming quickly. So with that, hopefully this sit down was edifying of this prophecy updates as of October the 11th, 2025 on this Saturday night. So with that, I would like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Kokodash, and the Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and his unbegotten Son, Bahashem, and the name of Hamashiach Abishai. Those are their true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lashmakash Lutan. And I say Barakathon to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim Wa'akwaf. Until next time, I would say Shalom.